I watched my twin sister, Riley, slip her tongue into my fiancé's mouth like she owned it, right there in the coat room of our family's Hamptons estate, 2 hours before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. She'd always been the one who took what she wanted, my clothes, my friends, my spotlight, but this was her masterpiece of betrayal, a knife twist in the gut disguised as sisterly affection. And in that split second, as their lips parted with a wet smack and she whispered something that made him blush, I didn't scream or slap her. I smiled, because I knew the one secret she'd buried deeper than her conscience. The car crash she'd pinned on me 5 years ago that left a man paralyzed and me branded a reckless drunk. It was supposed to be my perfect day. The kind of wedding that screams old money and new regrets. Ivory tents on the lawn overlooking the Atlantic. String quartets playing Vivaldi under crystal chandeliers shipped in from Paris. And 300 guests who'd flown private from Manhattan just to toast Ethan and me. Ethan Hargrove, heir to a pharmaceutical empire, with his Ivy League polish and that boyish grin that made me believe in second chances. We'd met at a gala for spinal cord research. Ironic now that I think about it, because Riley's little accident on that rain-slicked Pacific Coast highway had turned me into the villain of someone else's story. I'd taken the fall for her, forged the breathalyzer results, paid off the witnesses, all because she was the golden child, the one mom and dad doted on while I mopped up the messes. Family first, Peyton, Dad had said, his voice like gravel over whiskey, as he wired the hush money from his offshore account. Blood's thicker than justice. But blood curdles, doesn't it? Especially when it tastes like champagne and deceit. Riley had always been the chameleon, flipping from sweet sorority girl to cutthroat litigator overnight. Her law degree from Yale just a prop for her real talent, manipulation. She'd charmed Ethan at our engagement party last summer, batting those lashes that mirrored mine but somehow looked less haunted. Peyton's so lucky, she'd cooed, her hand lingering on his arm a beat too long. I'd laughed it off then, chalking it up to her loneliness after that messy divorce from her Wall Street ex. But now, as I stood frozen in the doorway, the scent of her Chanel No. 5 mixing with a faint brine of the ocean, I saw it clear as the diamond on my finger. She'd planned this hijacking down to the monogram napkins. I backed away before they spotted me, my heels silent on the Persian rug, heart hammering like a war drum in my chest. The house was a buzz of pre-ceremony chaos, caterers hauling lobster thermidor, florists wrestling with peonies the size of softballs, my mother barking orders at the event planner like she was directing a hostile takeover. I slipped into the bridal suite, a sun-drenched room with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the crashing waves, and locked the door. My reflection stared back from the vanity mirror, same honey-blonde waves as Riley's, same sharp cheekbones, same green eyes that could freeze a room. But mine held shadows she couldn't fake. I peeled off the veil, letting it pool like surrender on the floor, and pulled out my phone. One text to my best friend, Lila, change of plans. Meet me in the garden. Bring the envelope. Lila had been my rock since college, a no-bullshit journalist from Brooklyn who'd sniffed out more scandals than a tabloid hack. She'd been the one to dig up the evidence last month, after I started noticing the late-night texts on Ethan's phone, the way Riley's laugh lingered in his stories. Peyton, this isn't just flirting, she'd said over coffee at that hole-in-the-wall diner in Soho, sliding the manila envelope across the Formica table. Your sister's playing for keeps. Inside were printouts, hotel receipts from the Four Seasons in Boston, time-stamped during her business trips, screenshots of flirty DMs that escalated from emojis to outright sexts, and, buried at the bottom like a landmine, The police report from that night on the highway. Riley's DNA on the airbag. Her frantic call to me from a burner phone begging me to fix it. I'd burned the originals that night, but Lila had backups. Smart girl. The garden was a riot of hydrangeas and tea roses, the air thick with salt and the distant hum of a helicopter ferrying late arrivals from the city. Lila waited by the gazebo, her red hair tied back, envelope tucked under her arm like contraband. "You look like hell. Pay," she said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like cigarette smoke and resolve. "What's the play?" I took a breath, the words tasting like ash. "I'm not stopping the wedding." "Not yet." Her eyebrows shot up.
But I pressed on.
"Let her think she's won. Let her walk down that aisle in my dress. Say those vows with my ring on her finger. And then..." I dropped the bomb. Lila whistled low. "That's cold. Even for you." "Ethan's in on it." I shook my head, the lie slipping easy. Ethan wasn't in on anything, he was the pawn, the mark, too dazzled by Riley's fire to see the fuse burning toward him. But if I told Lila the full truth, that I'd been sleeping with her ex-husband to get leverage on Riley's firm, she'd walk.
No.
This revenge was mine alone. A symphony of silences and sharp edges. "Just trust me," I said, snatching the envelope. "And film it all. Every goddamn second." The ceremony started at sunset, the sky bleeding orange over the dunes like a bruise. Guests milled in their seersucker suits and pastel shifts, clinking flutes of Veuve Clicquot while a string quartet sawed through Pachelbel's canon. Mom, radiant Inger Oscar de la Renta, cornered me in the foyer. "Where's Riley? She's the maid of honor. She should be helping you into your gown." I forced a smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes.
"She's
freshening up. Told me to go ahead. Mom bought it. Too busy fussing over the seating chart to notice the tremor in my hands. I watched from the shadows as Riley emerged from the coat room.
Ethan strijktenet.
Her lipstick refreshed. She caught my eye across the room and winked. That conspiratorial twin speak we'd perfected as kids.
Gotcha.
If only she knew. I didn't walk down the aisle. Instead, I waited in the tense alcove, hidden by a curtain of tulle, as the officiant cleared his throat and the crowd hushed. Ethan stood at the altar, tall and tuxedoed, scanning the entrance with that nervous energy grooms get. Then she appeared, Riley, in my gown, the lace bodice hugging her like a second skin, the train sweeping the runner like a conqueror's cape. Gasps rippled through the seats, a few confused murmurs. But Mom's face lit up like she'd won the lottery.
"Oh,
Peyton, you look divine," she trilled, and the applause swallowed the rest. Ethan's smile faltered for a heartbeat, but Riley's hand on his arm steadied him. She was good, Oscar-worthy. Really, as she glided forward, bouquet of white lilies trembling just enough to sell the bride jitters. The vows began, her voice a honeyed drawl straight out of a Southern Gothic novel, but laced with that New York edge. "Ethan, you've been my anchor in this storm of a life." I could see the guests leaning in, enchanted, oblivious to the storm cloud that was me. Halfway through the rings, as the officiant droned about eternal bonds, I stepped out.
No dramatic entrance.
Just a quiet unzipping of the side flap and a stroll down the runner. My simple black sheath dress a stark contrast to her opulence. Heads turned like dominoes, whispers building to a swell. Riley's eyes locked on mine, widening in that perfect mix of shock and fury. "Peyton, what the?" I held up a hand, silencing her, and turned to the crowd. My voice, when it came, was steady as steel. Ladies and gentlemen, family,
Friends.
there's been a mix-up.
See?
That's not me up there. That's my sister, Riley. And she's about to marry my fiancé in my wedding. A collective inhale. Chairs scraping as people shifted. Ethan's face drained of color, his mouth opening and closing like a landed fish.
Riley recovered fast.
Her lawyer's tongue flicking out. Peyton, honey, you're confused. The stress. Maybe you need to sit down. She reached for me, but I sidestepped, pulling the envelope from behind my back. Confused?
No.
Riley. Enlightened. I tore it open, letting the papers flutter to the ground like confetti from hell. Photos of her and Ethan tangled in hotel sheets. The police report yellowed at the edges. Her signature forged on my DUI plea. You see, folks, 5 years ago, Riley here wrapped her BMW around a tree on Highway 1. High as a kite on coke she'd scored in Malibu. A father of 2 ended up in a wheelchair because of it. And who took the rap?
Me.
Your loyal twin. The one who always cleans up your messes. The tent erupted, Mom's sob. Dad's chair toppling as he lunged forward. Guests pulling out phones like it was a live TMZ feed. Ethan staggered back, the ring box tumbling from his fingers. Peyton. Is this true? Riley's mask cracked then, her face twisting into something feral. You bitch. You think you can just...
Oh.
I cut in, voice dropping to a whisper that carried on the salt wind. And I will. Because while you were busy hijacking my life, I was busy dismantling yours. That was the hook. The one decision that ruined her perfect plan. I'd leaked the full dossier to her firm's partners that morning, anonymously. Of course, detailing not just the crash, but her embezzlement from client trusts, the affair with the senior partner that got her promoted. By midnight, she'd be disbarred, unemployable, her Hampton summers a memory. But here's where it gets gray. The part that keeps me up at night, as security dragged her kicking from the tent. Her eyes met mine, not with hate, but with a mirror of my own emptiness. We'd both lost Ethan that day. He'd bolted for the valet, tires squealing toward JFK and whatever private jet escape he could buy. And me, I stood there in the wreckage, toasts turning to condolences, realizing the revenge tasted like victory and vomit in equal measure. Was I the hero reclaiming my due? Or just another monster in twin skin? The fallout hit like a nor'easter, winds howling off the Atlantic and whipping the tents into submission. By dawn, the estate looked like a crime scene minus the tape, overturned chairs, trampled cake underfoot, champagne flute shattered like my illusions of sisterhood. Mom had retreated to her Valium haze in the master suite, Dad barking into his phone about NDAs and damage control, while the staff, loyal ghosts in starched uniforms, hauled away the evidence of our implosion. I sat on the widow's walk, knees to chest. The cold November air, no, it was June, but it felt like winter, biting through my dress, watching the horizon where the sea met sky in an indifferent blur. Lila found me there, her heels crunching gravel as she climbed the spiral stairs. Holy shit, Peyton. That was biblical. She dropped beside me, offering a flask of something amber and illegal in polite company. The video's already viral, Twinpocalypse is trending. You okay? Okay? The word felt foreign, like a language I'd forgotten. I don't know, I admitted, taking a swig that burned straight to my soul. She deserved it, right? All of it. Lila's silence was answer enough. She didn't judge. That's what made her my lifeline. Instead, she pulled out her phone, scrolling through the comments flooding in Slay.
Queen.
From the feminists. What a psycho. Ruining her sister's big day from the pearl clutchers. Wait. She covered up a hit and run? Team Riley. From the edgelords who romanticized chaos. Already, the world was dividing into camps. Memes morphing the truth into myth. My phone buzzed incessantly. Texts from cousins I'd ghosted. Voicemails from Ethan's lawyer threatening breach of contract over the prenup. But nothing from Riley. Not yet. The drive back to the city was a blur of taillights and talk radio dissecting the wedding of the century gone south. Lila drove my Audi, windows down to let the wind scour the stale perfume of betrayal from my skin. We ended up at her walk-up in the village, a shoebox apartment stacked with dog-eared paperbacks and half-empty takeout containers, a far cry from the penthouse Ethan and I had toured in Tribeca. Crash here, she said, tossing me a blanket that smelled like patchouli and regret. Tomorrow, we plot Phase 2. Phase 2. I'd been so laser-focused on the drop that I hadn't thought beyond the confetti of lies. But as I lay on her lumpy couch, staring at the water stains on the ceiling that looked like accusing faces, the what-ifs clawed in. What if Riley fought back? She was a viper. After all, slippery. Venomous. Always 3 steps ahead. I'd seen it in law school, when she'd slept her way to the top of the mocks. Or in high school, when she'd framed me for shoplifting just to snag the lead in the spring musical. But this time, I'd anticipated her flip. The crash wasn't just her secret, it was ours. A family vault of sins. Dad's money had buried it deep, but leaks spring eternal. Sleep came in fits, haunted by dreams of doubled reflections, Riley and me, fused at the hip, unraveling like a bad splice. I woke to Lila's coffee brewing, the bitter aroma pulling me into the kitchen where she hunched over her laptop, fingers flying. Check this, she said, spinning the screen. The New York Post splash, twin drama, Hampton's heiress exposed in wedding wreck, hit-and-run cover-up, grainy photos of us as kids, pigtails and gap-toothed grins, juxtaposed with last night's carnage. And there, buried in paragraph 8, sources close to the family allege the elder twin, Peyton Ellis, has her own skeletons, including an alleged affair with Riley's ex-husband, tech mogul Victor Kane. My stomach dropped. Victor. God. How had I let it go that far? It started innocently enough. 6 months post-crash cover-up, when Riley ditched him for a younger associate at the firm. Victor, with his Silicon Valley scars and a grudge the size of the Bay Area, had reached out via LinkedIn, heard about the DUI. Riley's fault? Let's talk. We'd met at a dive bar in Palo Alto. Him nursing a IPA, me a double scotch, spilling the beans over greasy sliders. One thing led to another, revenge sex in his Tesla. Frantic and furious. The kind that leaves marks. It was supposed to be catharsis, a way to even the score without dragging the family name through the mud. But Victor was no saint. He'd recorded it all, pillow talk included, and now it was ammo in Riley's arsenal. She's counterpunching, Lila said, eyes sharp. Posted a tearful Insta story at 3 a.m., betrayed by blood, but I'll rise. #SurvivorSisters. The comments are a war zone. I grabbed my keys. Then we end it. Today, Manhattan was a pressure cooker that morning. Steam rising from manhole covers like the city's exhaling collective anxiety. Riley's firm loomed on Park Avenue, a glass monolith reflecting the chaos of yellow cabs and suited commuters. Security waved me up, perks of the Ellis name, even as whispers trailed me like smoke. Her office was on the 42nd floor, corner view of the Chrysler Building, walls lined with law reviews and framed accolades that now felt like tombstones. She was waiting, perched on her desk in a power suit that screamed innocence lost, legs crossed like she owned the skyline.
No tears.
No hysterics, just that cool, appraising stare we'd inherited from Mom. Peyton. Come to gloat. I shut the door, the click echoing like a chambered round.
No.
To negotiate. Her laugh was brittle, a shard of glass. Negotiate? After you torched my career? Victor's tape is already with my PR guy. Anonymous dropped to TMZ by noon. You'll be the slut who seduced her sister's ex for leverage. Mom and Dad will disown you faster than they can wire the bail. I leaned against the window, the city a dizzying drop below. Maybe. But you forget, I have the originals. The dashcam footage from the crash, time-stamped with your face in frame. One email to the DA, and you're rising, turns to cuffs. We hung there, twins in stalemate, the air thick with the ozone of impending storm. She uncrossed her legs, standing to mirror me. Our heights equal,
Our poisons aligned.
What do you want? Then,
Ethan?
he's gone, flew to Dubai with his trust fund and a therapist on speed dial. Not Ethan. The words tasted true. Finally. I want you to own it. The crash. The lies. The hijack.
Publicly.
Apologize to me, to the family, to that man's wife who's still sending me hate mail on the anniversary. Riley's eyes flickered. The first real crack. And if I do, what's in it for me? Your freedom. I slid a USB across the desk. The dashcam file encrypted, but dangling like bait. Delete the tape. Walk away clean. We both do. She waited, fingers drumming the blotter. That mummer's mind spinning scenarios. You're bluffing. You'd never tank the family. Try me. The bluff held because it wasn't one. In the envelope's shadow, I'd already drafted the confession email. CC to every major outlet. One click, and we'd both burn. Minutes stretched like taffy. Then, slowly, she nodded.
Fine.
But this ends it. No more games. We shook on it, palms pressing like a blood oath. And for a moment, I saw the girl she'd been 8 years old, sharing secrets under the covers during thunderstorms. But trust erodes, and so do twins. The press conference was set for that afternoon in the firm's lobby, a sterile space of marble and ferns. Riley stepped to the podium, cameras flashing like paparazzi lightning, her voice steady as she unraveled the thread. The crash was mine. The betrayal was mine. Peyton. She protected me when she shouldn't have.
I'm sorry. Me.
Off to the side in a nondescript blazer, nodding like forgiveness was possible. The room exhaled. Questions flying. Will charges be filed? Is the wedding off for good? But we held the line. A united front forged in fire. By evening, the narrative shifted. Redemption twins trending. Talk shows booking us for the healing journey. Victor's tape vanished into digital ether, his calls going unanswered. Ethan sent a single text, need time, and I deleted it without reply. For the first time in years, the mirror showed just me, unshadowed. But twists, like tides, pull under. 2 weeks later, A package arrived at my new sublet in Chelsea. No return address. Just a DVD labeled Our Little Secret. I popped it in, heart thudding, and there it was, Riley. Not at the crash site, but in a clinic waiting room. Ultrasound wand gliding over her belly. 8 months pregnant. The father? Unclear. But the timestamp synced with her business trip to Boston. With Ethan. She'd played me again. The ultimate flip, faking the apology to buy time. Leaking the tape anyway, but twisting it with this bombshell. Now the world debated not just who betrayed whom, but whose baby it was, mine to raise in exile, or hers to weaponize. I sat in the dark, screen flickering, and laughed. A sound raw and ruined. Revenge wasn't a decision. It was a mirror. Infinite and unforgiving. And in America's grand theater of grudges, no one walks away clean. The laughter died quick, leaving a hollow echo in my empty apartment, the kind of place that smells like fresh paint and forgotten dreams, exposed brick walls in Chelsea. I could barely swing on my freelance graphic design gigs. A view of a fire escape where pigeons nested like squatters. The DVD whirred to a stop. Riley's sonogram image frozen on the screen, a blurry peanut with a heartbeat that thrummed like accusation. Pregnant. With Ethan's kid? The math checked out, those Boston weekends. Her hand on her belly in the Insta stories she'd scrubbed post-presser. She'd known all along, hoarding it like a royal flush while I dealt my hand. I ejected the disc, snapping it in half with a crack that satisfied like cracking knuckles before a fight. But what fight? This wasn't the Hamptons anymore, with its buffers of wealth and whispers. This was raw New York, where scandals metastasize overnight, and by morning, my inbox overflowed. Exclusive. Twin mom-to-be spills on wedding betrayal. From page 6. Lace with Victor's tape stills. Me. Mid-moan. Face blurred but recognizable to anyone who'd scrolled our old sorority pics. The comments were a cesspool. Karma's a bitch. Peyton. Hope the kid calls you Aunt Slut. Lila called at 7 a.m. Voice hoarse from chain smoking. Get off socials. It's a shit show. Riley's lawyered up, claiming emotional distress from your public shaming. Talking defamation suit. Defamation. The word tasted like irony. Bitter as the cold brew I choked down.
Ide expusa truths.
Not lies. But in America's court of public opinion, truth bends to the best narrative. Riley's was the victim card, jilted bride, expectant mother, sister scorned by a jealous twin.
Mine?
The vengeful harpy who'd slept her way to spite. I showered hot enough to scald, scrubbing until my skin screamed, then dressed in armor, jeans, leather jacket, boots that clicked with purpose on the subway stairs. Destination: Riley's brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. A wedding gift from Dad that she'd turned into a fortress of passive-aggressive houseplants and abstract art that screamed I win. The buzzer crackled static. Her voice syrup-sweet through the intercom. Peyton?
Didn't expect you so soon.
Come up. Doors open. Trap?
Probably.
But hesitation was her game. I rode the ancient elevator, gears groaning like old bones, and stepped into the foyer where she'd framed our baby photos. Me smiling oblivious beside her cunning gaze. She lounged on a velvet chaise in the living room, feet up on an ottoman, a cashmere throw draped over her barely there bump like a flag of truce.
No makeup.
Hair in a messy bun, the relatable mom aesthetic she'd workshopped for the cameras. A tray of croissants and herbal tea steamed on the coffee table. Domestic as a lie. Yeah, it's safe, no caffeine for the little one. I stayed standing, arms crossed. Cut the June Cleaver act. Riley. The DVD? Low. Even for you. She sipped, unperturbed, eyes twinkling with that shared DNA mischief. Collateral. You started the war, leaking to my partners? They're auditing everything now. But hey, silver lining, this baby's got impeccable timing. Ethan's already calling, offering to do the right thing.
Ethan.
The name landed like a sucker punch. I'd written him off as collateral damage, a Ken doll too pretty for his own good. But hearing her say it twisted the knife. He's not yours. The kid isn't a bargaining chip. Isn't it? She set the cup down, leaning forward, the throw slipping to reveal the swell of her secret. Everything's a chip.
Pay.
You taught me that, taking the fall for my mistake on the highway. Remember? I was wrecked.
Yeah. But you.
You chose to play martyr. For what? Dad's approval? Mom's scraps? Her words stung because they grazed bone. The crash replayed in flashes, rain sheeting the windshield. Her laughter slurring over the Bluetooth as she floored it around a blind curve. The crunch of metal. The man's sedan spinning into the guardrail. His scream cut short by impact. I'd arrived 20 minutes later. Her huddled on the shoulder. Mascara rivers down her cheeks. Please.
Pay.
They'll ruin me. And I had swapped keys in the impound lot. Breathalyzed clean because I'd been home with a book and a glass of wine. Not lines off a dashboard. For family. For the illusion that blood bought loyalty. You owe me, I said, voice low. Not just an apology, a life. Riley's smile faded, replaced by something almost human. Regret? Or calculation?
Seat.
Let's talk real. Against my better judgment. I did. The chaise swallowing me like quicksand. She poured tea. The steam curling between us like unspoken indictments. I didn't plan the wedding grab at first.
It was.
Momentum. Ethan looked at me like I was you. But better. Freer. And when I found out about the baby, after that gala in March, it crystallized. You had the perfect life, fiancé. Spotlight. Dad's golden girl post-crash. I wanted a piece. A piece. I snorted. You took the whole pie. Fair. She rubbed her belly absently, a gesture that humanized her against my will. But Victor? That was sloppy.
Pay.
He came to me first. You know, after you ghosted him. Said you used him. Pumped for dirt on the firm. I told him to fuck off. But he wouldn't let go. The room tilted. Victor had played us both. The recordings. The leaks. It wasn't just Riley's revenge. It was a three-way grudge match. With me as the unwitting fulcrum. So what now? We destroy each other until there's nothing left. She met my gaze. Green on green. And for the first time, I saw the fracture lines in her facade, the late nights, the pill bottles half hidden on the sideboard. Or we fix it.
Together.
Like old times. Old times. The words dangled. Seductive as siren song. Twins against the world, sharing clothes in our cramped Upper East Side bedroom, covering for each other's curfews, whispering dreams under starlit Hampton skies. But old times ended with a screech of tires, and trust was a casualty. I need time, I said.
Standing.
To think.
Take it.
She didn't rise. Just watched me go. The door clicking shut behind me, like a period on a sentence we'd yet to finish. The streets of Brooklyn blurred into the F train's rattle. My mind a pinball of possibilities. Call the cops? Leak the pregnancy to Ethan? Force a paternity test that would paint her as the homewrecker supreme? Or swallow it? Rebuild in the rubble? Let the baby be the bridge we never crossed? Lila waited at her place with pizza and plot twists. Her laptop opened to a fresh Google alert. Ellis twins reconcile? Sources say baby bond sisters. Spin cycle engaged. We schemed over pepperoni, mapping contingencies like generals in a bloodless coup. Option 1, Lila said, ticking fingers. Go nuclear, press charges on the forgery from the crash. She's got priors now, with the embezzlement probe. Option 2, play long game. Befriend the bump. Get close. Then whisper doubts to Ethan until he bolts. 3, walk. Let karma's slow grind handle it. You're free now, no wedding. No firm.
No twin sa pensado. Free.
The word echoed hollow. That night, alone in my sublet, I pulled up old photos, us at prom, arms linked, crowns of cheap tiaras glinting. We'd been unbreakable then, or so I'd thought. But breaks heal crooked.
And revenge?
It scars deeper. Dawn brought a call from an unknown number, Ethan's voice, tentative as a truce flag. Peyton. We need to talk. About everything. I agreed. Meeting him at a neutral spot, a diner in Midtown, Formica counters and waitresses with Jersey attitudes. He looked wrecked, stubble shadowing his jaw, eyes red-rimmed from flights and fights. Riley told me about the baby. It's mine. The words landed soft. No punch left. And I'm stepping up.
But you.
I fucked up.
Badly.
He reached across the booth, hand hovering like it remembered mine. Can we start over? Without her? Tempting. The American dream repackaged. Redemption arc. White picket fence. A kid who might call me stepmom. But as I looked at him, I saw Riley's ghost in his hesitation. The way his thumb traced the table like he was already calculating exits. No, I said.
Simple as that.
We're done. All of us. He deflated, nodding like he'd expected it.
Fair.
But if you ever. I left cash for the coffee and walked out into the steam of 8 a.m. Traffic. The city pulsing with indifferent energy. Free. Maybe. Or just unmoored. Riley texted that afternoon. Doctor's appointment tomorrow.
Come? For real this time.
Against every instinct, I said yes. The clinic was upscale. All soft lighting and sonogram suites that smelled like lavender and lies. She lay on the table, gel-smeared belly exposed, as the tech probed for vitals. Look, she breathed, grabbing my hand. The screen bloomed, limbs flailing, heart a frantic Morse code. Ours. Somehow, twin blood. Shared sins. It's a girl, the tech said, printing the strip. Riley's eyes welled, and mine followed suit. Peyton. Name her after you. The offer hung. A lifeline or a noose. I squeezed her hand, the decision crystallizing. Not revenge. Not reconciliation. But reckoning. Only if you tell the truth. To everyone. The baby deserves parents who don't trade in shadows. She nodded, tears tracking salt.
Deal.
We left arm in arm, the city parting for us like it sensed the shift. But twists don't end, they coil. A week later, the mail brought another envelope, no DVD. Just a note in Victor's scrawl. Game's not over. Check the attachment. A flash drive, loaded with emails, Riley's.
To him.
Dated post-presser. Use the tape. Make her pay. The baby's leverage. Betrayed again. Or was it? The timestamps lied. I'd learned to spot fakes from Lila's forensics. Victor's endgame. Twisting the knife solo. I deleted it, blocked him, and showed Riley. Her face paled, then hardened. He's done. We reported him together, cyber harassment, extortion, the cops taking statements in a precinct that smelled like stale donuts and despair. Charges stuck. Victor's empire crumbled under SEC scrutiny he'd ignored in his vendetta.
Ethan? He stayed.
Oblivious or willfully blind, playing doting dad-to-be while Riley and I rebuilt, brick by crooked brick. Months later, the baby arrived on a sweltering August night, Evelyn Peyton Hargrove. 7 pounds of squall and surprise. I held her first, tiny fist curling around my finger, eyes opening to a world we'd tainted, but not broken. Riley watched from the bed, exhausted and exalted. "We're even," she whispered. "Not even," I said, passing her over. But close enough. America loves a comeback. Headlines shifted to twins' triumph, from wedding wreck to family win. Talk shows fawning over our bond beyond blood. But in quiet moments, nursing bottles in the nursery, or walking the high line at dusk, I felt the gray. Was it victory? Or just survival? The crash victim's wife sent a letter. Forgiveness.
Tentative?
With a photo of him in his adapted van. Smiling crooked. Ethan's glances lingered too long. Hints of old flames. And Riley? Her smiles held secret still. In the end, no one's wholly right or wrong, just human. Fractured. Fumbling toward light. The revenge that ruined her plan? It nearly ruined mine. But from the ashes, something stirred, not perfection, but possibility. And in this land of second acts, that might be grace enough. Grace, though, is a fickle bitch, comes wrapped in tissue paper. Pretty until you unwrap the barbs. Evelyn's first months were a haze of midnight feedings and milestone mania. The 4 of us shoehorned into Ethan's Tribeca loft like a modern family portrait painted by a drunk. Riley played supermom with ferocious efficiency, organic purees whipped in a Vitamix, Montessori mobiles dangling over the crib, her postpartum glow masking the shadows under her eyes. Ethan hovered, the reformed playboy turned diaper-changing devotee. His pharma empire funding the chaos while he chased redemption in burp cloths and board books.
Me? I was the anti-outlier.
Crashing on the pull-out couch with my laptop and lingering grudges. Freelancing logos for startups that paid in exposure and existential dread. It worked. On the surface, like one of those Bravo reunions where feuds fade to forced hugs. We'd coo over Evelyn's gummy grins, debating teething rings over takeout Thai, the Hudson River glittering below like it approved. But undercurrents pulled, Riley's late-night whispers to her lawyer about protecting assets, Ethan's averted eyes when Victor's trial hit the tabloids, tech tycoon torched by twin vendetta, and my own insomnia, replaying the wedding wreckage like a masochistic montage. Was I staying for the baby? Or just to guard the grave I dug? The fracture came subtle, as they do in families stitched from spite. It started with a forgotten pacifier. Escalated to a hissed argument in the kitchen at 2 a.m., Riley accusing me of undermining her with unsolicited advice on Ethan's wandering eye, me firing back about her flirting with the pediatrician over wine spritzes. "You're paranoid," she snapped, slamming a cabinet hard enough to rattle the stemware. Just like after the crash, always the victim. The word detonated. Victim? I went to court for you. Riley. 6 months of community service. License suspended. While you jetted to Ibiza on Dad's dime. Her face twisted. Evelyn stirring in the next room from the noise. And I thanked you, every day, in ways you were too self-righteous to see. This baby? She's my thank you. Our fresh start. I stormed out. Boots echoing down the hall. The autumn chill slapping me awake on the street. Pumpkins grinned from stoops. Leaves crunching underfoot like brittle apologies. Lila met me at a dive in the East Village. Neon buzzing open over graffiti-scarred walls. Shots of Jameson chasing the chill. You're enabling her, she said. Clinking glasses. Get out. Get your own life. My own life. I laughed. Bitter. What? Another failed engagement? A corner office I don't want? Face it, Evelyn's the only pure thing we've got. Lila's eyes softened. The journalist yielding to friend. Purity's overrated. Fight for messy. That's you.
Messy.
The word stuck as I Ubered back at dawn. The city stirring with joggers and Java runs. The loft was quiet. Riley asleep on the chaise with Evelyn tucked against her. A tableau of maternal myth. I slipped in, grabbing my duffel from the couch. Scrawling a note. Need space. Love you both. Call if it's real. The door whispered shut behind me. A soft severance. My sublet welcomed me back like an ex who hadn't changed the locks. Dust bunnies under the bed. Mail piled like regrets. I dove into work, pitching bold campaigns for eco-brands and queer nonprofits, the kind that paid modestly but fed the soul. Days blurred, yoga in the park, brunches with Lila dissecting the morning show like it was gospel, therapy sessions where I unpacked the twin knot in my chest. Boundaries, my shrink droned, a park slope boomer with wire rims and wisdom. They're not betrayal, they're breath. Riley called sporadically, updates on Evelyn's rolls and raspberries. Laced with subtext. When are you coming back? Ethan texted once. Miss your laugh.
Doors open.
I replied in emojis. Non-committal hearts that said everything and nothing. Then, the call that cracked the facade. Mom? Voice quavering over the line from Palm Beach. Peyton?
Honey.
Dad's had a stroke. Come home. Home. The Hamptons estate loomed eternal, a shingled behemoth with wraparound porches and ghosts in the eaves. I flew out that afternoon, trading skyline for seashore, the prop plane dipping over bays that shimmered like spilled mercury. Dad lay in the hospital wing, private. Of course, tubes snaking from his arms. Monitors beeping a metronome of mortality. Mom paced the hall in pearls and panic. Riley already there, cradling Evelyn like a talisman. We hugged awkward, spines stiff as starched collars. He asked for you, Riley murmured, passing the baby. Evelyn's fingers tangled in my hair, gurgling nonsense that sounded like absolution. The vigil stretched days, specialists in from Johns Hopkins, Dad rallying enough to rasp orders. No.
Goddamn.
Jell-O, his eyes flicking between us with that old Ellis steel. One night, as thunder rolled off the sound, he pulled us close, breaths labored. Girls. Enough. The fighting. It's killing me. His hand, veined and veined with IVs, clasped ours, mine and Riley's, linked like a chain. Blood. Thicker. Fix it. We nodded, tears salting the sheets. But fixes are fragile. Dad stabilized, transferred to rehab in the city, A penthouse suite overlooking Central Park where nurses bustled like stagehands. Riley and I tag-teamed visits. Evelyn the bridge, her first steps wobbling across the oriental rug. Chubby hands pulling us down to her level. Ethan tagged along sometimes. The 5 of us a tentative pod. Laughs edging out the old barbs. But secrets fester. And Victor's shadow lingered. His trial wrapped in December. A swift guilty on the extortion counts, sentencing him to white-collar purgatory, probation, restitution, a media ban that silenced his bile. Yet the whispers persisted, anonymous blogs dredging the crash, speculating on Evelyn's true paternity, painting us as a soap opera of swapped babies and sibling sabotage. The pressure built, subtle as tide, until New Year's Eve, fireworks over the Hudson. Champagne flutes clinking in Ethan's expanding loft. Now, with a nursery painted sage. We toasts to new chapters, Evelyn in a frilly dress cooing at the sparkles. But as midnight chimed, Riley pulled me aside to the balcony. Wind whipping our scarves. I need to tell you something. Her voice trembled. Not with guile, but genuine fracture. The babies. Not Ethan's. The world tilted. Fireworks blooming indifferent above.
What?
A donor. IVF. After Victor. I lied to protect us. From more scandals. Tears froze on her lashes. Ethan thinks he's the dad. It keeps him close.
But you.
I couldn't lie to you forever. Why now? The betrayal stung fresh, but muted, callous from old wounds. Because Dad's right. No more games. And Evelyn. She deserves truth. From us. I pulled her into the cold, arms wrapping tight. The city a symphony below. We tell him.
Together.
Clean slate. We did. The next morning over coffee and croissants. Ethan white-knuckling his mug as the words spilled.
Shock.
Then sorrow. But no storm he'd known. Deep down, the timeline's fuzzy. I love her anyway, he said, voice steady. If you'll have me. Us. Riley nodded, relief cracking her poise.
Me?
I stayed silent, the anti-roll fitting looser now. Spring unfurled green and forgiving. Evelyn toddling parks with a posse of caregivers, while Dad mended in his Park Avenue airy, barking stock tips at brokers via Zoom. Riley returned to consulting pro bono for victims' rights. Irony noted, her disbarment a badge-turned blessing. Ethan proposed again, this time to her. A quiet affair in the Hamptons garden.
No tents.
Just wildflowers and witnesses. Us. The family we'd forged. I declined the maid of honor spot. Anti-vibes only, but stood ringside. Evelyn scattering petals with chubby abandon. The vows echoed simple, through betrayals and beginnings. As they kissed, the Atlantic whispered approval, waves lapping like laughter. Yet the twist lingers. The one that sparks debates and late-night texts from Lila was Riley's final eye protection or poison. Did my revenge birth this fragile piece? Or just postpone the poison? Readers, hell. Even I split camps. Team Peyton, the Avenger who sparked redemption. Team Riley, the survivor who spun survival from silk. Truth? We're both villains in someone's story. Heroes in the babies. Evelyn calls me Aunt Pa, her lisp turning it to prayer. At 3. She draws us as a trio, stick figures, linked hands. Sun huge and yellow. I hang it on my fridge in the new studio in Williamsburg. Rent paid by a book deal on Twin Truths that's half memoir, half manifesto. bloodlines and backstabs, a tale of two sisters. It sells because America devours dysfunction, debates the morals over Book Club Merlot. Do I regret the decision that ruined her plan? Every damn day, and not at all. It unearthed us, raw and real, from the grave of our grudges. In this land of reinvention, where weddings hijack hearts and secrets surface like driftwood,
We float on.
not happily ever after, but honestly, fiercely, forward. And if that's not a win, what is?